welcome once again to Entertainment 411. I am your host, Bobby Del Rio. Today, we are in for a treat. We have South Canada's best talent agents weighing in on a very interesting topic. Some may call it controversial, but there's definitely a lot of points of view to discuss. We'll be talking about on the Ontario government's proposal to license talent agents, which would be very new for the province of Ontario. Although, interestingly, BC had licensed talent agents, I think it's 30 years ago. And so it's a really interesting topic about should we standardize agents across the country in terms of licensing? Should it go province by province? What are the challenges? What are the opportunities? You got Entertainment 411. You're going to get the best info, as always, in the Canadian entertainment industry. So we're gonna introduce all of our amazing panelists. They will let you know who they are, what province they're in, and then we're gonna get you started on Entertainment 411. You've all won. You're all on The Price is Right. And the price is right today here on Entertainment 411. We've got 6 panelists. So let's just go one at a time, or if there's 2 of you in the screen, we've got that as well. Just let us know who you are and also where you're based in Canada. That'll help contextualize the conversation.
I guess I'll go first. Mm-hmm. Yes?
Please do, yeah.
Okay, I'm Colin McMURRAY, and I work for Colin McMURRAY Associates here in Toronto.
Okay.
I'm Lisa LLOYD Talent, and we are based in Vancouver.
And I'm Tom GUSWAY, and I look after the Los Angeles division.
Great. Anybody else? No order.
I'm Amy Hines from Hines Management. Sorry. And we just celebrated 25 years for talent management, so we're pretty proud of that.
Hello, I'm Jason Ainsley. I'm with Principals Talent in Vancouver, British Columbia.
I'm ELENA KIRSCHNER at Red Talent Management, also in Vancouver, BC.
And you have all won the... I don't know. Well, welcome. We appreciate all of you here. Now, look, it's going to be a really interesting conversation. Obviously, we have a lot of people representing the West Coast, but the Ontario government has not licensed talent agents. Why don't we just start there? What are your first impressions about this idea that the Ontario government should license talent agents here?
So we had a Zoom meeting, I think it was last week. It was a meeting called by the TAMC committee, but also to EIC agents. And we discussed this for an hour, and every agent on that call was on board with being licensed.
Can we just define a couple terms, because I'm sure there's some people in the audience who don't know what TAMC or EIC is. Just like a little 101 for our audience, if that's okay.
Yeah, EIC is the Entertainment Industry Coalition, and what that committee does. So I'm EIC, and what that committee does is it makes rules on what agents are supposed to do for their clients. So online, if you go to the EIC website, it will list what our responsibilities are, what we cannot do and what we can do. So it helps actors in information that they need to know about their agent for sure, or even when they're looking for an agent. And then TAMC, it's a governing committee that they first started out to be an affiliate to bring ACTRA and TAMC together, so they worked on both sides together. It's more of a committee that if an actor and an agent have some kind of dispute, or if an agent has a dispute with another agent after a client has moved on, this committee has rules and regulations that you have to follow in regards to commissions and money owed and stuff like that.
Got it. It is interesting too, though, right? Because you talk about TAMC, and yet obviously, like, the standards are different for talent agents from province to province. Is that correct?
They are. And this is why we think that this is a great thing. We would honestly love to have it straight across Canada, because I mean, there's work in Alberta, and work goes there, and agents still should be there as well, so that everyone kind of follows these same rules. And I think what we're hoping to do is, there's been some misappropriation of funds, and there's a big court case going on now of an agent who stole 1.5. I don't know, it's high, and so that should not happen because it's the actor's money. And so what they're trying to do is govern that. So we have to have a license, and anyone who doesn't have that license, they'll be known as more like a D agent instead of an A agent, and they'll have to follow rules and regulations. And I know Vancouver, when we were on that call, they said since they became that license system, they've had no one call in and complain about an agent in Vancouver.
I'll just step in quickly, Vancouver-wise. So we have been licensed since 1995. And in preparation for this meeting, I decided to go onto the government website and refresh myself as to like the exact rules and regulations of, everything that we should be doing, should not be doing. And it's just simply, in BC, it is the way we do business. It is standard of the industry. It is anyone that doesn't do business in the way that is held down under this licensing would be considered not even a D agent, but I would say a scam agent. And it's I think one of the really great things is that the government actually has all of the rules and regulations on a website, because I think it's really important to give this information to actors. What is standard practice, what is good practice for an agent, so that they enter into the relationship with their agent forearmed with the knowledge of what is typical. And I would also like to say that I've never worked with an agent anywhere in Canada, Ontario included, that doesn't operate under these same rules. They are standard of the industry for a professional agency across the country. But people need to know about it. And if we're regulated, if there's anyone working outside of that, they can be shut down.
Right.
Exactly. And I think that's exactly what we're trying to do in Toronto, is to align ourselves with exactly how the agents in Vancouver have aligned themselves. So we want to do that. We want to make sure that we're upholding the industry in the same way that you are. And that's why the government has asked us to fill out a survey, basically, to say, like, how are we feeling about this? And I think that exactly aligning ourselves with how Vancouver has done their licensing, we kind of want to mirror that.
And that's why I think it's important. It'd be awesome if we could just do it countrywide.
Exactly. Yeah.
Any other perspectives? There's still a couple of people who haven't spoken.
Well, I can give you a little bit of history on I'm an old dragon. I've been around 36 years now, I think it is. Yeah, 36 years. And how this all started was we only had one acting talent agent in all of Vancouver. It was actually Marie Morton, and there was MTA. She became MTA, and everybody was surprised we even had a talent agency. This is back in the 80s. And then what happened, it was a trade schools branch, and they looked after all the trade schools. In other words, the modeling schools, and the odd little person who was doing some acting classes, they handled that. And it was run by a gentleman by the name of Ozzie Sylvester. And because I was involved so early with all of this, we became good friends, Ozzie and myself. And he actually came to me in 1993 and said that the trade school branch was thinking, because I was starting to grow, and Marie Morton actually sold to characters when characters came into Vancouver, et cetera, et cetera. And I helped him devise the planning for this agency licensing. And it was a really good idea. And the reason why is that people started to see that there was going to be more acting, and there was some wild cards, and they would charge whatever they wanted. They would do whatever they wanted. And this is why the trade schools branch came in and said, we're controlling the trade schools, but we're not controlling the agents. And that's how it happened. It was one of the best things that ever happened. We love it.
Well, that's why we want to, because you guys have had such success with it. And with the issues that have been going on of late, we really feel it's important to do it for sure. And like I said, there were a lot of us on the call, and not one person had questions or any issues with it. Everyone was in agreement about doing this.
Oh, that makes sense. Also, Jason, I think you wanted to weigh in.
Yeah, I just wanted to say, like, for me and for our agents who are kind of at the, you know, younger side of things, you know, we're not as haven't been around as long. This is all we've ever known. I mean, all of us agents who work under principals had to, you know, sign, be interviewed and sign an affidavit with the Employment Standards Branch, you know, outlining sort of what you're supposed to, the rules and how you're supposed to follow and conduct business. And you know, for us, it's just our standard way of dealing and doing business. And like Elena said earlier, you know, even with Toronto agencies that we work with, like, I just figured I thought you guys were licensed, to be completely honest. And because everyone I've ever dealt with, we kind of all operate very similar. So it was, when I got this request, I was kind of, everyone at our office was like, whoa, we didn't even realize.
Well, the majority of the agents are really, you know, abiding by the code of ethics. And it's something that we all, you know, we have trust accounts. We're not paying our hydro bill out of our, you know, client's money account. Like there's certain things that we have to uphold. And the majority of the agents are doing that. Unfortunately, there are a few bad apples out there. And those are the ones that are kind of giving us a bad name and kind of, you know, forcing us to go this route. But all in all, I think it's a really good decision, and it will weed out those bad eggs, and it will, you know, make sure that we're focusing on, you know, people that are conducting business the way that we should be.
So look, as an ignorant actor, let me just jump in here for a second, because I find it very interesting, and obviously, like, I do not know this issue at all the way all of you do. But I guess what I don't understand is, if BC has had licensed agents for 30 years, why hasn't Ontario done it? Even though I accept that people are generally acting professionally, why don't we have these set standards the way British Columbia has had for 30 years? That seems a bit odd to me. You know?
It is very, very odd even to us. And I'll tell you what it is. We here, I mean, we're all Canadian across the board, of course, but we in Toronto have always laid down and just let them walk all over us. We've accepted everything that was just handed to us. We weren't in the decision making. We didn't stand up. And what we're doing now is we're going, okay, we have to make this industry strong, and we have to, you know, weed out the bad eggs. And this one company that was caught with all of this, all the finances that were going to other things, made all of us look bad for a few months. Like people just thought all agents were like that. And so when the licensing came in, we were like, yeah, we have to do this, because this agency that is out of business, they were neither permitted into TAMC or into the EIC. And yet they had a huge roster and just took on tons and tons of people and took all their money.
Yeah, that is a problem. You're right. What happens is there's still bad eggs. And I think the reason why, you know, watching what's happened in the industry over all these years is people like LLOYD Talent, and they work with their agencies, and all those agencies seem to have reached a certain level. So in other words, I'm sure all of you can sniff out one of those bad eggs within, you know, 2 minutes of dealing with them. You go, oh, wait a minute, this is a bad egg. And so you don't end up working with them. And unfortunately, even with the licensing, I know for a fact that there are still bad eggs, and it's really sad. But how do we stop that?
Well, we hope that, I mean, like I said, when we were on that meeting, the person from Vancouver, sorry, I forget his name, he said that since they started licensing agents out there, no one has ever called to complain about an agent. So
yeah, I think it was Timon that said that there was, like, I think for 30 years that this has been in place, and I think they've had like no complaints or one complaint or something. Like it really does. I think it really does, you know, do the job by weeding out those that are not.
Yes, that is correct. There are no complaints going into it, and the reason why is we have the amount of money that is supposed to be, charged fees, et cetera, that is set in stone by the government. And I agree with that. And people who are I don't know if you want to call them bad eggs, let's just say unlicensed people, they're abiding by that. So no one's complaining as of yet, but they're not paying the dues. In other words, we have to pay a licensing fee. We have to, for every year, and you have to be bonded, and you have to, fill out all the forms, et cetera, and these people are not, and they're kind of sliding underneath the radar, but they're at least abiding by looking after the talent the way they're supposed to. But they're still
how much is the licensing fee a year?
$100, isn't it?
Yeah, it's in the low hundreds. I mean, it's negligible. It's nothing.
It's nothing.
It's nothing to oversee. It is nothing but a benefit to the people, within the industry and to our clients. It's such an easy no-brainer. I think, I think the most important thing that we should be doing is trying to educate folks, as to what to expect from an agent or agency, or it's a shame we don't have I don't think we have a modeling agent represented, because I would love to hear from that side of the business. But, this is a business full of people that are full of dreams, and it's important that that our dreamers also are given the knowledge to know this is normal, this is not normal, so that they can make the right choices. When all agencies need to be regulated, we know that everyone is at least meeting a bare minimum, in terms of standard of care, and there's a very easy, if someone is sliding underneath something, then you just simply report them and they will be shut down.
The thing about I on this call today, we're here, but I know there's a lot of people watching. Could be agents, could be actors. So I think it's great if agents are on to hear this conversation, because it's important. As far as actors, obviously we want to keep them educated, and they're going to learn something from this call. But I think what happens is, if this does go through with our government, it will be widely known. I mean, ACTRA will send out the information, EIC will send out the information, so that actors in Toronto will be educated once we actually have to become regulated. So this is good information for them, but this is really all about the agents right now, which will only make the industry better.
Okay, let me ask a question here, because I mean, there's so many different perspectives that are very similar, but I guess what I'm taking away is that, even when you do license agents, there's still corruption that happens, right? What we're really talking about, we're talking about ethics and morals. And so I guess my question is, how do we elevate the ethical standards of the business generally? Like, what can we do to create real change? Because I think that's what we're talking about.
Well, I think, as I was mentioning before, if you go on the ACTRA website, go to EIC, it will list all of the regulations that we agents should follow with our roster. And I would assume or hope that when this licensing goes through, there's information, like I would send it out to all my roster, so they know this is how I'm going to work. It's how I always worked anyway, but this is now set in stone. So hopefully we'll get out there through TAMC and EIC and ACTRA, and then agents will just send it out. But you're right, there's always going to be some agents that don't follow that stuff, for sure. But we hope to slow that down, for sure. And
I think one of the reasons that we have not had any incident in the first years since 1995 in British Columbia is because we are actually regulated beyond just a piece of paper, and we have to have a license. I mean, we literally can't function. It's illegal to have a license, an agency at all in British Columbia unless you are licensed. Once you have a license, we actually cannot, if we're late doing each year, we're fined. So the first fine is $500. If you have a second infraction, so the following year you're late again, the next infraction is $5,000 fine. if you have a third infraction after that, so the following year, now you're late again, it's a $10,000 infraction fee that we are charged. So on top of the values and the ethics and the morals that we have to follow, we're so highly policed that literally we're not allowed to function. We cannot exist unless we have this license. And under our licensing agreement, we have to follow the rules of that the government has set out. So far, we can be an excellent example across Canada for how that system does truly work. Now, we can't, if somebody is mistreating somebody on a day-to-day basis, then I don't, the government can't control that, but they're trying to regulate it as much as they can. And a financial hitting us in the pocketbook, if we're not following those rules, is a pretty good incentive for us to follow the rules.
Yeah.
And Bobby, doing something for the actors. Almost everybody is on the internet. I don't know anybody that doesn't look on the internet. So if I'm a brand new actor and I want to look for an agency, I start perusing through the internet. I'm surfing, I'm looking at all the agencies.
Right.
And part of the mandate is we must have an agency license number on the website. And not only do we do that, every bit of paperwork that we have, invoices, everything, we list our agency number. So if somebody is on the ball, surfing a new talent looking for an agency, maybe they might kind of realize, oh, gee, I just went to 10 agencies and 8 of them had a license number on there and 2 of them didn't. Maybe, hopefully, it would twig somebody.
Right. I was just thinking also what would be awesome is when and if this all goes through, because we have a lot of colleges and universities that teach acting, it would be great for an actor or someone to put it into their curriculum that they have to know that if you're out looking for an agent when you graduate, you must look for someone who has a license.
Yeah. And just simply direct people to the government websites that they actually have lists. So there are links. If you go to the government link, you can click within that to get a list of all the licensed agencies in British Columbia, for example. So it's disseminated officially through the government, so you know that people are up to date and actually a properly licensed agent, and it's quite easy to find. It's just a matter of directing folks to them. And as far as the larger ethical evolution of agents, that's actually a large part of what TAMC was put together to be a part of elevating the discourse both between agencies, so we're not squabbling with each other, and and so that we are operating ethically with our clients, and that's actually a large part of the TAMC mandate. And there are TAMC, which is the Talent Agent Managers Association of Canada. There are TAMC agencies across Canada that all ascribe to operating, in this ethical way, regardless of which province they are operating in. So it's another thing to potentially look for.
So I have a question regarding TAMC then. So if TAMC has existed for, quite a while, the whole time I've been in the industry, it's 25 years. TAMC has existed, and so obviously this conversation between agents in different provinces has been happening, but then, well, did no one realize? I'm sure people must have realized that the BC agents are licensed. They're not licensed in Ontario. Like whose job is it, I guess, to go, oh, hey, maybe we should all have standardized, license requirements, or the opposite? I guess I just don't understand the politics in terms of.
TAMC is standardized nationally. So any agent that is a part of TAMC across the nation agrees to the same set of standards and rules. As far as whether an agency is licensed, that is a provincial mandate, and so it's up to whether it be the province or that's something that has to be done province by province. However, I would, again, like to say the vast majority of agents operate already with these best standards, and Toronto is in a really great position to simply be able to, like, there will be no sea change in how business is done. The majority of agents are doing business this way already.
Exactly.
You're right.
Yeah. So but it's great to give people the ability to check and make sure that the person that they're working with is licensed, and so that there is recourse if there are any problems.
I could be wrong on this, but I do remember years ago this conversation did come up a little bit here in Toronto amongst agents, and I don't think back then agents wanted it. And I think it's with this financial situation with an agency. That's when, like, it was looking really bad for us. We were all like known as thieves, and they were trying to maybe all our money for us wouldn't come to us. And I think that's when all the agents went, okay, maybe we knew this licensing thing. So we knew that was going on in Vancouver, but I don't think we were really interested in it back then. That's what
I don't think we've not had a case like the whole, agency that's out there right now that's in trouble. We haven't, we haven't had anything like that in Toronto for, years and years and years. So I think it's only now that this has come into the light that now the ministry is looking on us like, okay, what's going on? How are you regulating yourselves? And so, that's when we're going to them saying, well, we do have this, the EIC, we do have the TAMC code of conduct. And so we are, basically aligning ourselves with, with the way that Vancouver, has their, their policies. So we're kind of aligning ourselves with the same. And so I think this is a good thing, and it's not going to change the way that we do business. And it's just going to weed out those that are, that are not.
So what happens if an agent from any province fails to adhere to TAMC standards? Is there are they penalized? Like, what's that process like?
TAMC is a voluntary organization, so you choose. TAMC is an association that you choose to join as an agency, and if you aren't adhering to the standards of TAMC, then you are asked to leave TAMC. We pride ourselves in we have a stable population of agents that enjoy operating, to a stated higher, I would just say a stated ethical standard. I don't want to say higher, because there are plenty of non-TAMC agencies that operate with an extremely high ethical standard. But I do think it is helpful for people to just have more confidence in how operations take place, to have more standards, the ability to see exactly how we operate, and to give them that level of comfort.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Okay, so I guess I'm just trying to wrap my head around all different politics, because there's provincial politics, there's federal politics, there's TAMC politics, and so is TAMC self-regulating, or is it more like an honor code? Is there I don't know, the auditing wing of TAMC that is ensuring that people are hitting their standards? Like what is that adjudication process like?
Well, I think so. We are kind of self-regulating, I think. And so, if there's a complaint form, so if anyone, if there's a TAMC agent and someone is not getting paid, or there's, some issue, then you can fill out the form, you send it in, and then, there's an audit, and then we can go ahead and do an investigation. So, it's all if there's a complaint that comes in from a TAMC agent, then there will be an investigation.
Okay. Let me ask you a question about for anyone, right? Best practices. Right now, it sounds like agents are especially with TAMC and EIC. There's already mechanisms in place where people are trying to do the same thing to protect people. So do we believe that this Ontario licensing idea, is this overkill? Is this needed? What do you think?
No,
I think it's needed.
it needs to happen. It should. I think it should be in every province. Is it in Alberta? I don't know. Like I just, like I said before, that's all I've ever known. So for us, I don't understand why it's not in place yet.
Yeah, but you know what's funny? So when we get the licensing, you're kind of on the same path that I'm thinking. Then who needs TAMC or EIC? But unfortunately, there's things about TAMC, like you sign with your client a 60-page contract, and 3 copies of it on file. So the government's not going to make you do stuff like that, I don't think. So each organization has some different things on their list. It would be great if they just combine it all and put it underneath the licensing, but I don't think that's going to.
The licensing in British Columbia, I mean, I don't even know when TAMC started, but it existed. Whether there's a TAMC or not, our licensing system is here. It's here to stay, and it did not occur because of a TAMC or EIC. It occurred because of the need for regulation. And TAMC doesn't actually influence what the government is doing. They're completely separate entities. I think it's great that there's another layer that TAMC can present, but there are a lot of great agencies in British Columbia that are not members of TAMC. You need to have 70% of your roster be union, full union members in order to become a TAMC member as an agency. And so not everyone fits into that, those precise standards, but we have very, very strong unions with the BC performers here. So if an agency is a member of TAMC or not, it actually has nothing to do with what we're talking about here in terms of licensing and how we regulate it, although I think it can really add to it. So I'm not saying it's not necessary, but if there is a complaint, people here will go to one of two places. One is to the union BC performer, complain to the union that overrides and regulates any of the productions that are happening here. And secondly, they'll go to the government because the government has rules and regulations, and if we're licensed, then we have to abide by them. So most people out there don't even know about TAMC, and it's not really part of the process that we have to go through to handle and to uphold, great ethics to be functioning as an agency.
Anybody else want to jump in?
Well, from hearing about the licensing, like I said earlier, here we're all for it for sure. It's just gonna make our industry. That's what we want to do. Is we want to keep our industry here in Toronto thriving, and I think those are important things because this court case and anything leading up to it was really scary for us here.
So, look, maybe this is a controversial take, but as you explained, and thank you all so much for having this conversation and being wonderful and looking great and everything. We're having a very civil conversation about a complex topic. A lot of people are learning, and for me as an actor, I definitely appreciate it. See, I didn't know TAMC. I knew TAMC existed. I didn't know that it skewed union, especially if it's 70% union rosters to be part. So, what about the role of union versus non-union? Because we're talking about creating standards across the industry nationally. Like, this is the ideal, right? It's like everyone in Canada, we play by the same rules, we're all accountable, but you have different dynamics at play, right? You have union work, non-union work, union performers, non-union performers. You have TAMC, which is ostensibly is leaning towards the regulation for union actors, but there's a lot of non-union actors. So how do we reconcile the union politics with which is already a sort of Byzantine national political conversation?
I think with a lot of different organizations and written rule books and stuff, they add new things and they forget to update their stuff to the current year. And so with all the non-union commercial work out there right now, you're right. TAMC should, and I think they're talking about this, lowering that you can only have 30% non-union and you have to have 70% union. I think that is probably going to change soon because everybody's more non-union people now because of commercial situation.
But I think we have to keep bringing back to the topic of this panel is about the licensing agreement, and it trumps everything. It doesn't matter whether it's union or non-union. It doesn't matter whether it's a TAMC or a non-TAMC agency. It provides us with an incredible amount of structure that we and ruling that we absolutely must abide by. And if we don't, we lose our license. If we don't have a license in the province of British Columbia, we don't have a business. We're not allowed to function. So it trumps everything.
Right, that makes sense.
You know what I envision there is there can't be a department in every province that is licensing. If you drive a car, you have a license. Everybody has a license, and yet each province dictates what the rules are for their province, and everybody has to be licensed, and no one balks about that. And you can join a car club and you have your own set of rules. And to me, British Columbia, we have our own provincial laws, and as far as agents go, and that's great. And then if you want to deal with TAMC or UBCP or whatever, that's great too. But every province, I think, should have its own licensing department to try to keep, everybody playing. I don't think it would be a good idea for Canada to have this carte blanche, same licensing across Canada. That I would not like to see. I like to see every province mandate their own.
Okay. Any other thoughts?
Interesting.
I just wanted to ask something to the Vancouver agent. So it's my understanding that if, say, you don't renew your license, or you're not a licensed agent, then production companies just will not send checks to you. Is that correct?
Yep,
Yes.
that is correct.
And I think
and
now,
including if we are licensed and so we need to renew our license every year.
Yeah.
Write a check, send the thing, sign the form. If we miss that, if we just forget for a day, and we're late, checks do not come until everything is completely properly, back in order. So yeah, they're very serious about it.
Who informs these people that you haven't had your check arrive on time, and so your license is kind of floating?
The payroll companies, so like EP Canada or Cast and Crew, then they start just sending the checks directly to the talent as opposed to the talent agency, even if it's in the contract. Yeah.
Yeah.
But I think
the provincial government calls the payroll company and says these people are in arrears. Stop sending their checks.
Wow.
And then the payroll company stops. And then as soon as we're back, then the government says they're good.
Yeah. And I think now, correct me if I'm wrong, Vancouver, is it's a 3-year license now, right? If you you can renew for 3 years and then it's good for 3 years as opposed to every year. I don't know if it's just because you're in good standing or whatnot.
If you're in good standing, it could be for 3 years. Otherwise, it's 1 year, and it's at the discretion of the licensing department.
Okay, so there you go. Yeah.
Yeah.
So we're 3 years. 2026. We just did this, and yeah.
We're 3 years.
We're also.
Yeah.
Okay, so how do we think this should play out? Like, obviously, there's different things happening in province to province. There's TAMC, there's union, non-union. There's a lot of different things happening. But what do we think for the Canadian film and television industry when we're talking about licensing agents in Ontario? What can we take away in terms of like an action plan? Like, we've got a lot of people watching, and I think people are going, okay, well, obviously I want higher standard for my agency, for my career as an actor. What should we tell these people? Like, we've got all these amazing agents on this panel. What should people do so that we can have the standards that I think we're all looking for?
Can I just say, Elena said it earlier. So there are agents out there that are not EIC or TAMC, but yet their standards they keep up just like EIC or TAMC. There's just a few that are pulled in that might not do that. But I think Elena said, everyone here is really upstanding agents, pretty much.
Okay, but there are those who
Thank you.
aren't here on this panel, and as you know, you were referencing a lawsuit. Like there are things that do happen. So I don't know. We've got a lot of people. Should people go to this the Ontario government website and weigh in? Should they go to the TAMAC website? Like what would be the call to action to help kind of raise these standards?
So there is a link being circulated right now that the Ministry of Ontario is trying to gather information about how we conduct business. And so I would encourage everyone to fill that out because the ministry doesn't know what we do. It's kind of clear they're not really sure. So I think it's important that everyone fills that out and give the information and, know what the code of the EIC code of conduct is, know what that is, because that's really how we're aligning ourselves. And so I think it's fill out that form. I think that's really important to get the information out that the ministry really needs.
Anybody else?
I hear a giggle. What's that giggle about?
No, I just was laughing because my parents still don't know what I do after 24 years. So it just is funny because it's like, you're a talent agent. Like, what is that? Like, what you put people in movies? And I just tell them at the beginning is just like, I put people in Barbie commercials. Like, that's kind of what we do at the start, But it is there's no schooling for our job. I mean, a lot of people, they're in the States, a lot of agents come from a law background, but, for Canada where the line is kind of, it's a bit gray, whether you're an agent, manager, you kind of bleed into both up here. I think it's important to have these structures in place with licenses, with TAMAC, and, to be just following a certain code of ethics when you're dealing with business, and if I may say, like, just don't be a dick. Like that's kind of how we operate. Like so to me, it's never come into our frame of business and operation in our office of remotely. As soon as the checks come in, they go right out to the actor. I mean, it's payroll's happening every week. I mean, the only time there's ever been a delay in payroll is when you're waiting on production. So, yeah, I mean, that's just all I know. So.
Well, and we're all in business for actors. Like we all wouldn't have a business if it weren't for actors, right? So our primary job is to protect our actors. And if this is going to help protect our actors even more, then why wouldn't we want this, right?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Good, Amy. That's.
Well, look, I mean, we appreciate everybody's perspective. And to be honest, like you've taken, what I thought was fairly complex and really made it very easy to understand. And that's what we do here on Entertainment 411. So why don't we start to wrap things up here? But what we'll do is I'll just give everybody an opportunity to have final thoughts where you can summarize, everything we talked about in just a takeaway, your little summary, and we can just go one at a time. And if there's two of you, then you can each speak in your window. We've got 6 agents, and where do you land? What are your final thoughts here?
So for me, how I look at anything that we're going to change in 2025 to make the industry better is going to be a win-win for everybody. That's just the bottom line. I mean, it's going to be a win-win for agents in their comfort zone, actors looking for agents, casting will feel comfortable recommending the licensed agents, and production will have to use the licensed agents. So it's a win-win for everybody.
Anybody else? No, there's no order. Everybody is equally brilliant, equally professional.
Well, I think the biggest issue that brought the Ontario government's attention, it was about money, and the systems that we have in place here in BC literally control the flow of that money. And we are so tightly governed that if we miss sending payments out, it's, technically it's within 5 days of receiving it. That's banking rules. And so if there's going to be a problem, it's usually because of the money problem. And we kind of don't have a choice but to really follow those, and the agencies that are the decent agencies out there. Just like Jason said, nothing stays in our accounts because it flows in and out. It's as quickly as it comes in, it goes right back out again. So that's a pretty good indicator. I always say when I'm interviewing, especially with parents, that please only interview agencies that are licensed, and it's usually new information for them as well. And it gives all of us an incredible peace of mind in British Columbia, and it gives actors a peace of mind and parents peace of mind to know that we've got a governing body that is pretty powerful, that are making us toe the line every single day. And I think it's a great thing for us to do this, to be able to do our jobs really well and with a great deal of integrity, and to know that we've actually got the support of the government to do that. That's to me the perspective of being a licensed agent. I've got the government behind me. I think that's pretty cool.
Yeah, for me, I'm just happy that this is all I've ever known, because I just feel that when I started 24 years ago in my parents' basement, with 30 commercial actors, and now we've grown to, 9 agents with 300 clients for all film, TV commercials, voiceover, mocap. It's just nice that this is what I've been taught. I've taught my assistants and agents that have come up behind me, and it's just it allows it to just grow in that way and to conduct, in an above board way. And I just think that that's important, and it gives agents, a better name out there when we do operate this way.
3 more.
I'm all for it. Yeah, I mean, I think we're all on the same page. It is not government overreach or anything like that. I think having a set of simple, honest standards that everyone works to, and an easy avenue by which anyone who works outside of that can be censured or stopped is really important in a business that is as large as the film and television industry is in Canada. So I think it's there's no downside to it.
Exactly. It's just going to increase our accountability, right? And every other agent's accountability. And what's wrong with that,
Yeah.
100%.
I think what's really great about this, for sure, and I know I'm slamming this agency, there were people who knew this was going on, and there were complaints called, but because those organizations can't do anything really, I mean, they could do a few things, where the licensing can shut them down, and we don't have that. And so no one could shut this company down for a few months, and they just kept taking more and more money. So I think this is why years ago, we went, ooh, licensing, we don't want to be licensed and controlled, and now we want to be controlled. No whips and chains, just controlled.
Tom, you're the only one who hasn't given us your final thoughts,
yes,
and we're eagerly
100%. But the other thing that when you are licensing, I hate to bring this up, but I deal in LA for the last 25 years. That's all I do. And we're totally 100% licensed down there. And we also are bonded. Same here. So if that would have happened, the money problems, and somebody steps in really quickly, at least there's some money to help the actors out. Otherwise, yeah, you're in court and you get nothing.
I don't know how much it could have helped out at 1.5 million, but
well, it just depends what the bond is, but at least, but it's better than nothing, or at least there's something there.
Yeah.
Well, and the point is, if they were licensed, they wouldn't have gotten to that point, right?
That's
like
right.
it would have,
100%.
right? Like, yeah.
That was my sarcasm.
Appreciate it.
Clearly, there's lots to talk about, and we appreciate every single one of our esteemed guests for attending here and getting along. Now, I thought it was going to be a reality show, people screaming at each other, oh my God, I was like, you're also nice and Canadian, polite, and professional. So, look, we appreciate you. We appreciate our audience at Entertainment 411. Now, we've got a little statement here to our audience. You know, stay informed, stay connected, continue these discussions within your own networks. What happens next will shape the future of the Canadian entertainment industry, and your voice matters. And whether you're a performer, agent, is crucial that you speak up. The Ontario government wants to hear your thoughts on this proposal of licensing agents. They ask you to leave a comment on their site. You can find the link to the government proposal on the eBoss Canada site and on the Actress site. And you want to join us tomorrow because our guest will be Alan Frew, the lead singer of Glass Tiger. And we've got guest host Nick Carruin. He's a music journalist, a Toronto Star. Thank you again to our amazing panel. Please come back anytime. I'm Bobby Del Rio. This has been Entertainment 411.
Bye.